Excuse me, officer, I think you have the wrong person.
Ma'am, we received a report of a shoplifter matching your description.
A shoplifter? I'm a federal prosecutor. I just walked out of the store after paying for everything. Here's my receipt.
I don't need to see a receipt. Get on the ground and put your hands behind your head.
Sir, this is a mistake.
At 3:27 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the Southdale Center Mall was packed with weekend shoppers. Lauren Hayes, 39 years old, walked out of a Nordstrom carrying 2 shopping bags containing a blouse and a pair of shoes she had just purchased for her daughter's upcoming birthday party. She had the receipt in her purse, her credit card statement would show the charge, and she had done absolutely nothing wrong. But none of that mattered to Officer James Pritchard, who had been flagged down by a Nordstrom loss prevention employee claiming a black woman matching Lauren's general description had walked out with unpaid merchandise. The loss prevention employee had been watching the wrong person on the security monitors. The actual shoplifter had left the store 10 minutes earlier through a different exit. But Pritchard didn't bother to verify any of this before approaching Lauren. What happened in the next 42 minutes would be captured by mall security cameras, by dozens of witness cell phones, and by Pritchard's own body camera. It would end a private security career and a law enforcement consultation contract, trigger an FBI investigation, result in a $9.3 million settlement, and expose how easily an innocent person can be brutalized by the system even when that person is a federal prosecutor who puts criminals in prison for a living. Before we dive deeper into this incredible story, let me know in the comments where you're watching from tonight. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, because what unfolds over the next several minutes will leave you absolutely speechless. Trust me, you won't want to miss how this plays out. Lauren Hayes had spent the last 14 years building an impressive career as a federal prosecutor. At 39, she was an assistant United States attorney for the District of Minnesota, specializing in white-collar crime and public corruption cases. She had successfully prosecuted corporate executives for fraud, politicians for bribery, and financial institutions for money laundering. Born and raised in Minneapolis, Lauren was the daughter of 2 public school teachers who had instilled in her a deep belief in justice and the rule of law. She graduated at the top of her class from the University of Minnesota, then attended Yale Law School where she served on the Yale Law Journal. After graduation, she clerked for a federal appellate judge before joining the U.S. Attorney's Office. Over 14 years, she had tried 63 cases and won 60 of them. She has secured convictions that resulted in over $200 million in restitution to fraud victims. She had argued before the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals 12 times and won 11. She was being considered for promotion to criminal division chief. Lauren lived in South Minneapolis with her husband Marcus, a high school history teacher, and their 2 children, Zoe, who was turning 13 next week, and Jordan, who was 10. She was at the mall that Saturday specifically to buy Zoe's birthday present. She had found a blouse Zoe had been wanting and a pair of shoes to match. Total purchase, $147.32. Paid with her credit card at 2:58 p.m., receipt in her purse. She had walked out of Nordstrom's main entrance, heading toward the parking garage, when Officer James Pritchard called out to her, "Ma'am, I need you to stop right there." Lauren stopped and turned around, confused. She saw a uniformed officer, not police, but private mall security, walking quickly toward her. Behind him was a young man in a Nordstrom polo shirt, the store's loss prevention employee. "Can I help you?" Lauren asked politely. "We need to talk to you about some merchandise," Pritchard said, his hand already moving to the handcuffs on his belt. "You need to come with me." Lauren looked at the loss prevention employee. "I'm sorry, is there a problem? I just checked out. I have my receipt." The loss prevention employee, a 23-year-old named Derek Chen, who had been working retail security for 8 months, looked uncertain. We had a report of someone who looked like you leaving with unpaid items." "Someone who looked like me?" Lauren's voice remained calm, but she understood immediately what was happening. She had prosecuted enough cases to know how this worked. "I paid for everything. Would you like to see my receipt?" "That won't be necessary," Pritchard interjected. "Ma'am, we received a report of a shoplifter matching your description. I need you to come with me back to the security office. I'm not going anywhere until someone explains what I supposedly did," Lauren said firmly. "I have a receipt for everything in these bags. I have a credit card statement that will show the charge. I haven't stolen anything." "Ma'am, we can do this the easy way or the hard way," Pritchard said, stepping closer. "Turn around and put your hands behind your back." Lauren felt her heart rate spike. This was escalating far too quickly. "Officer, this is clearly a misunderstanding. My name is Lauren Hayes. I am an assistant U.S. attorney for the District of Minnesota. I prosecute federal cases. I have identification in my purse. If you'll just let me show you. Colin, I don't need to see anything, Pritchard interrupted. Turn around now. Lauren made a decision. She would comply, she would stay calm, and she would let this play out through proper channels. She had prosecuted enough wrongful arrest cases to know that resisting, even verbally, could make things worse. I'm going to comply, but I'm telling you right now, this is a false arrest. I have done nothing wrong. She turned around and put her hands behind her back. Pritchard grabbed her wrists roughly and snapped handcuffs on them, tightening them more than necessary. The metal bit into her skin. You're hurting me, Lauren said. The cuffs are too tight. They're fine, Pritchard said dismissively. By now, a crowd had gathered. Shoppers stopped and stared. Several people pulled out their phones and started recording. Lauren could see the confused and horrified expressions on their faces. A well-dressed black woman being handcuffed outside Nordstrom while holding shopping bags from the store. This is ridiculous, one woman in the crowd said loudly. She obviously just bought something. Look at the bags. Derek Chen, the loss prevention employee, was looking increasingly uncomfortable. Officer Pritchard, maybe we should just check her receipt. I mean, if she has one. I've got this, Pritchard said sharply. Ma'am, you're being detained for suspected retail theft. You have the right to remain silent. I'm a federal prosecutor, Lauren said again, louder this time, so the growing crowd could hear. My name is Lauren Hayes. I work for the U.S. Attorney's Office. I have a receipt for everything I purchased. This is a false arrest. Tell it to the judge, Pritchard said. He grabbed her arm and started pulling her back toward the Nordstrom entrance. The shopping bags fell from Lauren's handcuffed hands and hit the floor. The contents spilled out the blouse, the shoes, both with Nordstrom tags still attached but clearly paid for, and a Nordstrom receipt that fluttered to the ground. A young woman in the crowd picked up the receipt. She has a receipt. It's right here. She paid for this stuff at 2:58 p.m. That's less than 30 minutes ago. She tried to hand the receipt to Pritchard, but he waved her away. Step back, ma'am. This doesn't concern you. It concerns all of us, another voice from the crowd shouted. You're arresting someone who didn't do anything. Pritchard's body camera was recording everything. The crowd, the receipt on the ground, the Nordstrom bags with paid merchandise, Lauren's calm insistence that she was a federal prosecutor, but he wasn't paying attention to any of it. He had committed to his course of action and wasn't backing down. He pulled Lauren through the mall toward the security office, located near the food court. The crowd followed, many of them still recording on their phones. Lauren walked with as much dignity as she could manage, her hands cuffed behind her back, her mind already running through the legal implications of what was happening. False arrest, unlawful detention, violation of civil rights, assault. She mentally cataloged each element of each potential charge the same way she did when building cases against defendants. Except this time, she wasn't the prosecutor. She was the victim. They reached the mall security office. Pritchard opened the door and pushed Lauren inside. The small office contained a desk, several monitors showing feeds from mall security cameras, and a holding area with a bench. Sit down, Pritchard ordered, pointing to the bench. The handcuffs are cutting off my circulation, Lauren said. You need to loosen them or remove them. I'm not a flight risk. I'm not resisting. I haven't committed any crime. You'll sit there until the police arrive, Pritchard said. You're not police? Lauren asked, though she had already figured this out from his uniform. I'm mall security, but I have arrest authority on mall property. I've detained you for retail theft, and the Minneapolis Police Department will be here shortly to process you. On what evidence? Lauren demanded. I have a receipt. I paid for everything. What evidence do you have that I stole anything? We received a report. From whom? The loss prevention employee who couldn't even identify me correctly? Have you reviewed the security footage? Have you checked with Nordstrom's point of sale system to confirm my purchase? Have you done any investigation at all before handcuffing a federal prosecutor in the middle of a mall? Pritchard's face flushed red. Your job doesn't matter. If you committed a crime, I didn't commit a crime. That's the entire point. You have a receipt showing I paid. You have security footage that will show me paying. You have credit card records. You have everything you need to verify I'm telling the truth. But instead of doing basic investigation, you handcuffed me and dragged me through a mall in front of hundreds of people. Derek Chen, who had followed them to the office, spoke up nervously. Officer Pritchard, I think maybe we should check the footage. I mean, if she has a receipt from 30 minutes ago, I'll review the footage after the police arrive, Pritchard said. Until then, she stays in custody. This is unlawful detention. Lauren said clearly, making sure the body camera was recording. I am an assistant United States attorney. I am not resisting. I am complying with your orders, but I am telling you explicitly that this is a false arrest. I have broken no laws. I have stolen nothing. You are violating my civil rights. Pritchard said nothing. He sat at the desk and began filling out paperwork. 15 minutes passed. The handcuffs cut into Lauren's wrists. She could feel her hands going numb. She asked twice more for them to be loosened. Pritchard ignored her both times. Finally, 2 Minneapolis Police Department officers arrived, Officer Sarah Gonzalez and Officer Tim Morrison, both veterans with over 10 years of experience. They walked into the security office and took in the scene. A well-dressed black woman in handcuffs on a bench, mall security officer at a desk, and a nervous-looking Nordstrom employee. "What do we have?" Gonzalez asked Pritchard. "Retail theft suspect," Pritchard said. "Nordstrom Loss Prevention reported her leaving with unpaid merchandise. I detained her at approximately 3:27 p.m. Gonzalez looked at Lauren. "Ma'am, what's your name?" "Lauren Hayes. I'm an assistant U.S. attorney for the District of Minnesota. I work in the federal courthouse downtown. I didn't steal anything. I have a receipt for everything I purchased. This is a false arrest." Gonzalez's expression changed immediately. She looked at Morrison, then back at Lauren. "You're a federal prosecutor?" "Yes. I've been with the U.S. Attorney's Office for 14 years. I specialize in white-collar crime and public corruption. You can verify this with one phone call to the U.S. Attorney's Office." Gonzalez turned to Pritchard. "Did you check her ID? She claims to be a prosecutor, but did you check her identification?" Gonzalez repeated, her voice harder. "No, but did you review security footage before detaining her?" "I was going to after." "Did you verify with Nordstrom whether she made a purchase?" Pritchard hesitated. The loss prevention employee said, "Where's this loss prevention employee?" Morrison asked. Derek Chen raised his hand slightly. "That's me. I think I might have made a mistake. I was watching the monitors and I saw someone who I thought left without paying, and I thought it was her, but I wasn't totally sure. And did you actually see her steal something?" Gonzalez asked. "Not exactly," Derek admitted. "I saw someone on the camera who looked kind of like her and they walked out, but now I'm not sure it was the same person." "Did you check the point of sale records?" "No." Gonzalez looked at Pritchard with barely concealed anger. "So you handcuffed and detained someone based on an uncertain identification from a loss prevention employee who didn't actually witness a theft and didn't verify whether she had purchased items?" "I had probable cause." "You had nothing," Gonzalez said. "Where's her receipt?" "It fell when I detained her," Pritchard said. "You didn't pick it up? You didn't look at it?" "Someone in the crowd picked it up." "But you didn't examine it yourself before handcuffing her?" Gonzalez was incredulous. Morrison had already pulled out his phone. "I'm calling the U.S. Attorney's Office to verify her identity." Within 3 minutes, Morrison had confirmed with the duty officer at the U.S. Attorney's Office that Lauren Hayes was indeed an assistant U.S. attorney, that she was currently on leave for the weekend, and that she had no criminal record of any kind. Gonzalez walked over to Lauren and unlocked the handcuffs. "Miss Hayes, I apologize. This should never have happened." "Should?" Lauren rubbed her wrists where the cuffs had left deep red marks. "Officer Gonzalez, I appreciate your professionalism, but an apology doesn't undo what just happened. I was falsely arrested, handcuffed, and detained without probable cause. I was subjected to this in front of hundreds of people based on nothing more than someone's vague description and racial profiling." "I understand," Gonzalez said quietly. "We're going to need to file a report on this incident." "You're absolutely right," Lauren said, "and I'll be filing several reports myself, starting with a formal complaint to the mall management, a complaint to whatever agency oversees private security licensing in Minnesota, and a civil rights lawsuit." Pritchard stood up from the desk. "Now wait a minute. I was just doing my job." "You were doing your job?" Lauren's voice was sharp now. "Your job is to investigate before you arrest. Your job is to look at evidence. Your job is to verify information. Instead, you handcuffed a federal prosecutor in the middle of a mall based on an uncertain identification from an employee who didn't even witness a theft. You refused to look at my receipt. You refused to check my ID. You refused to review security footage. You tightened handcuffs that cut off my circulation and ignored me when I told you they were too tight. That's not doing your job. That's civil rights violations." By now, mall management had arrived the general manager, Richard Foster, who looked horrified by what he was hearing. "Miss Hayes, on behalf of Southdale Center, I want to apologize." "Save it," Lauren said. "I want copies of all security footage from this incident." I want the name and contact information of every witness who recorded this on their phones. I want employment records for Officer Pritchard. And I want a written explanation of what training your security personnel receive regarding probable cause, lawful detention, and civil rights. Foster nodded quickly. Of course, we'll provide whatever you need. Lauren turned to Gonzalez. Officer, I'll need a copy of your incident report. I'll also need the contact information for your supervisor. Absolutely, Gonzalez said. She shot a look at Pritchard that could have melted steel. Miss Hayes, for what it's worth, this isn't how Minneapolis PD operates. We don't make arrests without evidence. I know, Lauren said. I work with MPD all the time on federal cases. I know you're better than this. But he isn't, she gestured at Pritchard. The investigation moved quickly. Lauren filed a formal complaint with mall management within 24 hours. She filed a complaint with the Minnesota Board of Private Detective and Protective Agent Services, which licenses security officers. She contacted the FBI's Civil Rights Division, and she retained a civil rights attorney to file a federal lawsuit. The security footage told a damning story. It showed Lauren entering Nordstrom at 2:32 p.m. It showed her browsing, selecting items, and proceeding to the checkout counter at 2:56 p.m. It showed her paying with a credit card at 2:58 p.m. It showed the cashier bagging her items and handing her a receipt. It showed her leaving the store at 3:24 p.m. It also showed a completely different woman, similar height and build, but with different clothing and different hair, leaving through a different exit at 3:15 p.m. without paying for items. That woman was the actual shoplifter Derek Chen had seen on the monitors, but he had misidentified Lauren as the suspect. The footage showed Pritchard approaching Lauren at 3:27 p.m. It showed him handcuffing her without reviewing any evidence. It showed the receipt falling to the ground. It showed Lauren being pulled through the mall. It captured everything. The body camera footage was equally damning. It recorded Lauren repeatedly identifying herself as a federal prosecutor. It recorded her stating she had a receipt. It recorded her asking for the handcuffs to be loosened. It recorded Pritchard ignoring all of this. But the most damaging evidence came from the review of Pritchard's history. He had been working mall security for 6 years. In that time, he had made 41 retail theft arrests. Of those 41 arrests, 33 had been of black shoppers, despite black shoppers representing only 11% of the mall's customer base. Of those 33 arrests, 19 had been released without charges after evidence showed they had actually paid for merchandise or had been misidentified. The pattern was undeniable. Pritchard was racially profiling black shoppers and making arrests based on skin color rather than evidence. And mall management had been aware of complaints but had taken no action. The civil lawsuit named Pritchard, the mall management company, and the private security firm that employed Pritchard. The complaint alleged false arrest, unlawful detention, assault, battery, violation of civil rights under federal law, and negligent supervision. 6 months later, the case settled for $9.3 million. But the money was secondary to Lauren. The settlement required comprehensive policy changes. The mall had to implement new training for all security personnel on constitutional rights, probable cause, and implicit bias. Security officers had to review evidence before making detentions. All detentions had to be recorded, and a civilian oversight board had to review all detention incidents monthly. Pritchard was fired from the security company and had his private security license revoked by the state. He would never work security or law enforcement again. Derek Chen, the loss prevention employee, received additional training but kept his job. He became an advocate for better training in retail loss prevention, speaking at industry conferences about the dangers of racial profiling and the importance of verification before accusation. Officer Gonzalez and Officer Morrison received commendations from their department for their professional handling of the situation and their recognition that the detention was unlawful. 1 year after that Saturday afternoon, Lauren Hayes stood before a room full of police recruits at the Minneapolis Police Academy. She had been invited to speak about civil rights, wrongful arrests, and the importance of evidence-based policing. A year ago, Lauren told them, "I was handcuffed in a mall for the crime of shopping while black. I had a receipt. I had paid for everything. I had identification showing I was a federal prosecutor. None of that mattered to the security officer who arrested me. He saw a black woman and assumed criminal." She held up her wrists where faint scars were still visible from the too tight handcuffs. "These are from that day. They're mostly healed now, but there are scars that don't show. My 13-year-old daughter was supposed to get the birthday present I bought that day. Instead, she got a mother who came home shaking and traumatized. She got a lesson that even being a federal prosecutor doesn't protect you from racial profiling. The room was silent. You're about to graduate and receive badges and guns and authority. That authority is a tremendous responsibility. Every time you detain someone, every time you put handcuffs on another human being, you're affecting their life. Maybe it's someone who committed a crime and needs to be held accountable. Or maybe it's someone like me, innocent, compliant, with evidence of innocence readily available. She paused. The difference is investigation, evidence, taking 60 seconds to look at a receipt before you handcuff someone, asking questions before you make assumptions, treating every person as if they might be innocent, because they might be. I prosecute criminals for a living. I believe in law enforcement. I work with police every single day, but I also believe that we can do better. We must do better. Because the next person wrongly arrested might not have my resources, my knowledge, my ability to fight back, and they deserve justice just as much as I did. Look, Brain, the applause was long and heartfelt. Lauren returned to her work as a federal prosecutor. She continued building cases and securing convictions, but she also became an advocate for criminal justice reform, working on initiatives to improve police training and reduce racial bias in law enforcement. Every time she walks through a mall now, she feels a flutter of anxiety. Every time she makes a purchase, she holds onto her receipt like it's evidence in a trial, because she learned that sometimes it is. Her daughter Zoe, who turned 13 that year, got a different birthday present, not the blouse and shoes from that traumatic day, but something more important. She got to see her mother transform injustice into advocacy. She got to see that fighting back matters. She got to learn that speaking truth to power is worth the cost. The blouse and shoes are still in Lauren's closet, unworn. She keeps them as a reminder that badges and authority don't excuse violations of rights, a reminder that evidence matters, a reminder that justice, when it finally comes, should never have taken so much to achieve. This case changed policies and training at malls across Minnesota. But if you think this story is shocking, wait until you see what happened to the off-duty firefighter who was arrested while rescuing someone from a car accident because the officer said he was interfering. That case is even more insane.